it is. That's a wrap for the 2025 spring training. I am Donavan, and with me is Roy.
Oh, spring training is complete. So we got a lot to talk about. We've got roster battles that are finally starting to come into focus. And then also I want to talk a little bit about who's impressed us on the minor league side of things. We are a minor league podcast, and it's time to start turning our focus back to that side of the lot soon.
Yes, more like roster roast. And welcome to Friars on the Farm. There's been a lot of turmoil on social media about the roster decisions, and I think this is what happens almost every year, but I think a lot more this year than prior years to who's been added to the major league team, who got dropped off, who could be dealt, who could be DFA'd, and who has been DFA'd. It's just a lot going on this spring. It's quality problems, but we're here for it. And so after this episode, we should be almost every week till the end of the minor league season, and maybe even into the major league season. We are going on. That's why we haven't been around too often. Had an episode a few weeks back. Just kind of gearing up for a new season. It's going to be a grind for us every week doing this. It's great doing this with you. We're going to have our usual amount of player interviews from up in Lake Elsinore. Lots of good guys playing in Elsinore this year. And our regular portfolio of national writers and national baseball people coming on. Probably gonna have Emily Walden be our Midwest League insider, hopefully in the future. But lots of things going on. But first, before we get started, really want you guys to go onto YouTube, smash the subscribe button, hit the like on social medias, go on Apple, give us a review. Give us a subscribe on YouTube, and it really helps us. We're really trying to grow the podcast. We're really trying to grow the YouTube channel. We have partnered this year with El Paso Chihuahuas, and we finally have a charity that we are going to be raising funds for.
Yeah, we've got a T-shirt design that you helped work with the Chihuahuas to come up with, and it spawned from an interview quote from earlier this off season.
What we normally do, like going all the way back to the Mackenzie Gore and dominate the day, and you can't make the club from the tub from Ryan Weathers, with Zamo, saying managers like good bullpen and 3-run homers is on a shirt. We are partnering with El Paso Chihuahua, so it is trade. It is a sanctioned shirt. It goes through them. It will be sold in their team store. They do have an overhead. So the way this charity works, or the way this is going to work this year, normally we do this by ourselves, have an artist do it, and then we put it out by ourselves. But I wanted to connect with the Chihuahuas and go through the process of having a shirt made, designed, approved, and going through one of the affiliates and having it sold in their store. So that had to go through them. So with the sale of the shirt, a little bit goes off the top. They have to make their profit. And then the rest of that money goes to the charity. And then the El Paso Foundation will match whatever we raise out of the leftover sales of the shirt. They hope to have that shirt by the first homestand in El Paso. When that information comes out, when they let me know that they have it in store, we'll put out the link. I'll have the picture of you guys seen the picture of the shirt. I'll put that up again. But what really matters is where the money's going to. And Dave from the El Paso Chihuahua store, he suggested the El Paso Child Crisis Center. Now, the Child Crisis Center of El Paso is a distinguished local nonprofit organization operating as a 501 entity and proudly serving the community of El Paso. Our emergency shelter operates independently of federal funding. That's huge. Independent of federal funding and relies solely on the generosity of community donations. The children who we serve at our shelter have often endured unimaginable hardships, and it is our utmost priority to ensure their well-being by providing them with essential services. Our shelter serves as a secure sanctuary while children can again regain their sense of normalcy, freedom from concerns of harm, hunger, homelessness, and or isolation. Now, that's one of the things that we wanted to do with this, is put the money towards an organization that really could use it. Everyone gives to the cancer organizations. Everyone gives to larger organizations as a whole. But this is a small organization where $500, $1,000. I don't know what we're going to do or how much we're going to raise for it, but it means so much to them. And if we can do a little bit of that, and as our listeners and watchers, if you can, if you want to buy a shirt and donate, that'd be fantastic. And that's what we're here for.
So did you know that Angela, my wife, used to live in El Paso?
Hmm.
She lived there for, I think, 5 or 6 years, and she worked for the U.S. Army. There's a huge Army base on there. So when she found out that the Child Crisis Center of El Paso was the organization that was going to benefit the fundraising that you're kicking off, she was moved. She knew that organization very well, and so she was so happy to hear that we were working with them. So this is a legit entity that makes a big difference in the lives of some children that need a lot of help.
Yeah, absolutely. And when God, when Dave emailed the picture of the your Instagram shot of what they are, I started getting all. I was at work. I started getting choked up. I wrote this big email to him saying, "Let me tell you a little bit about my story." I personally have family members on the street. My one half brother on my mom's side has been on the street since he was 10 years old. So I'm intimately aware of the dangers and the perils of this of being homeless and unhoused. And I got choked up, and I still get a little choked up thinking about it. So we're really stoked to do that. Really can't wait for this to kick off. But let's talk about some more fun. So let's get it going.
So one thing I meant to talk about last time that we skipped over, we forgot about it, was the automated balls and strike system that we've seen. Now we've finally seen it. So, I mean, those of us that watch a lot of minor league baseball, we've seen a little bit of it last year in AAA, but this year they really kind of highlighted it in spring training. And I thought it worked beautifully. What was your thought?
I really thought it worked beautifully. And I realized that, and I watched a couple of other games too that weren't Padres, but it seemed like the Padres catchers had better success rate challenging balls and strikes than any other teams. Like I saw a Brewers game the other day, and he catcher ball was called a ball, and he tapped his helmet, and they did it, and it was like 4 inches above the strike zone. Like it was a really bad challenge. It just seems like our guys know the strike zone. And what I really liked is watching some of the minor league guys challenge and then get the call right as well. I love it. I think it's going to be very interesting once it gets worked into the major league. I think there needs to be more challenges per team. I feel it might even be one an inning or even one in at bat. It seems like, because if you only get 2 in the whole game, then it becomes very strategic. Then when it really matters, instead of maybe an egregious call in the second inning, it really has to matter when that happens. So I hope they tweak it to where there's a little more. And we've seen how quickly it happens, how fast. It's not like the review where you're like, okay, I'm going to go get a sandwich while we figure out if this guy's safe or out.
Yeah, no, it's 15 seconds of interruption, and then the game's moving again. But so I like the 2 challenges per game. I think that's a good number. I mean, they've put some work in to get to it. But the egregiously bad miss that you see in the second inning, they can review it, and they know that they're going to get that challenge back. Like every year, Pitching Ninja puts out that highlight reel of here's 99 right down the middle, and the catcher was set up on the outside. It's right down the pipe, and somehow the umpire missed it because the catcher's set up over here. So now he's establishing his zone, whatever. That call, they'll be able to overturn that like that. And hopefully we see some less of those, because I think umpires are going to have to learn how to recalibrate themselves. So they're not watching what's the catcher's movement. Did he set up low and away and he had to reach across to go up and in? It's like, no, there's a rectangle. And if it breaks the rectangle, that's it.
And to be fair, the umpires, it does show also that the umpires are incredibly good. Like, they are very good at what they do. I wonder what it's going to do to the umpire scorecard X profile. Like, how is that? Are they going to add a challenge to one of their matrix that they have on there? Because I love every day reading, the Padres, obviously the umpire scorecard, but other team scorecards, and sometimes they highlight like, look, this is 94% is like really bad. And I think that's the bottom percentage that an umpire has to get right to be a kind of a successful umpire.
Yeah, it's really remarkable how consistently good they are at what
Yeah.
they do. And I know they get a lot of crap for the few missed calls that they get in a game. And one of the discourses that was going on was how big of an impact is this really going to make? I know Scherzer was pretty outspoken about it early on in spring training. But I mean, ultimately, the goal is to get the calls right.
Yeah.
And if teams have an incentive to hold that review for those at bats and those counts that matter most, it's a close game. You've got a runner on. It's a 1-1 count, and there's a borderline pitch. Then that's when you feel incentive to, maybe you'll feel more likely to use that. So I don't think that's going to keep people from exploiting it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not going to make a huge impact on the game, but in the end, I think it's a net positive. We won't
Yeah.
see it this year. Maybe we'll see it in 2026.
Yeah. I think it was Max Scherzer during the last CBA negotiations was really pushing for it, because what he said was like, who can really change the outcome of a game, and that's an umpire. Major League Baseball players, those guys make too much money. You can't sway them for anything else. You can't sway them with money to change the game, but umpires can be swayed somehow, and they can affect the baseball game. So it was really interesting to see that he was one of the guys during the negotiations that really pushed for it.
Well, what I saw this spring, he threw, I want to say it was a sinker at the bottom of the zone, and his catcher framed it beautifully. And he tried to review it, and it was like 2.5, 3 inches below the zone. It wasn't even borderline, it was down. But it's a pitch that he's used to getting called because his command is so good. And so the umpires give him a little bit more leniency. And he's got an elite framer behind the plate. I can't remember who it was, but he had a really good framing catcher back there. And so I think that kind of tipped his opinion a little bit, like, hey, I just got robbed of something that I probably would have gotten away with. Like, that would have gone my favor if it wasn't for that. The other thing I noticed was they took away the rectangle on the TV display. Did you notice that?
Interesting.
They took away the box because now that box was never a realistic representation of the strike zone. It was just something superimposed up there, I guess, to aid us, but also to give the viewer something to complain about. So now that the Hawkeye system is going to be reviewing it, it kind of doesn't make sense to put a box up there that isn't accurate when you actually have an accurate system monitoring things.
Right. Well, it was a strike it was in the box, on the TV. And with Scherzer, guy, be careful what you wish for, huh? With Scherzer.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, let's move on.
So spring camp has finally broken. Today was the last game. And, I noticed something in today's game, and I never noticed it in prior seasons, but they've probably always done this. All the starters, they've got one at bat, and then they were done.
Yep.
Did you notice that? I never noticed that before.
No, I didn't. The game was on the radio. I was at work.
Yeah, I was watching I had the game cast up on my computer because I was working. I'm not watching the game, but I at least had, the box score going. And I'm looking up and I'm seeing, okay, this guy drew a walk. Oh, pinch runner. This guy got a hit, pinch runner, because they scored a bunch of runs in the first inning. And I was looking back, what happened is like everybody who got on base subbed out. So I guess that's, okay, good job. Oh. Yeah. The first base, dab out.
They have to get back to, they have to drive the cars back here, or they're going to fly, but they got 2 days to get their crap together. The regular guys have their places here, but all the other guys that don't have places, will be spending the night on couches for the next few days, or are looking for, quick, I'm sure every team helps them with finding somewhere to live and probably somewhere close, to the ballpark. But yeah, they're like, deuces, out.
Well, okay, so last year we met up with Jeannie Merrill at a game, and she was telling us about that Jackson had an apartment, and who was his roommate?
Graham Pauly.
Graham Pauly was his roommate, and so he still had his stuff packed at the apartment. So we know that they put him up in some sort of I'm sure that they make it available to stay at the Omni for a certain period of time, and then help him find accommodations. But yeah, guys like Gavin Sheets, and now you've got Jose Iglesias, Yuli Gurriel, these guys that maybe a couple of weeks ago weren't so sure that they were going to be on the big league roster. Now they got to find a place to stay. Yeah, and then the regulars go take a day off. Tatis, Machado, Cronenworth. Go relax for a day because it's going to be a grind.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get right into it then. We're talking about roster construction.
Oh
Um,
man, all the news dropped today.
God, and I really feel like, and I watched before he came on, I watched today's presser from Schilt, and I watched it the past couple of days. How it is, they say it's the most competitive spring training of his career. The best. I'm in the best shape of my life. It's the most competitive spring training, but it just seems like the decisions kind of fell dead. And I got a lot of thoughts on this, but with guys like Rguy and Julio Iglesias and Martin Maldonado, those three guys don't scream playoff guys.
Yeah, I mean they're all guys that have made an impact in the past. But some of them you kind of have to look pretty far into the past to when they
Yeah.
made their last big impact. I mean, last year Martin Maldonado was statistically one of the worst players in baseball, at least from an offensive standpoint. And Yuri Gurriel's been pretty poor for the last 3 years, and he really only plays one position, if that. He's first base DH.
Right.
So, given a roster spot to those guys, I understand it's based on tenure and reputation, and maybe there's some story that they've been struggling for the last couple of years because of ABC, and now they've cleared those things up. I don't know. But, I mean, I'm a Padres fan first and foremost, so all I can do is hope that all these guys show up and show out and kick butt for the Padres and help them win a bunch of games. What I'm going to carry from this competition is that there are guys that are hungry, that were fighting, and most of them are going to go down to AAA, and they're going to be ready for their next opportunity when that opportunity comes.
Yeah, I think it was Schilt that said, talking to Tirso Ornelas, he's like, "You're a major league player. Now go be a major league player in AAA." He started out hot, and Tirso was a guy that and that everyone wanted him to make the squad. In the beginning of spring training, he was on fire. And as the season continued to, as spring training kind of goes, the pitches started getting a little more sharper. I think he kind of fell off the ways. And a lot of his hits were just singles. He wasn't Gavin Sheets in the ball, hitting 6 home runs. I think he hit 1 home run. And I think that's one of the things that the Padres really want to see from him is, yeah, you can hit the ball. You can hit singles. We need doubles. We need gaps. We need power coming from this guy. And it didn't really show up. And I'm not sure. And maybe he makes it if he hits 4 home runs, and has 3 doubles and is on a tear. But it just didn't seem like, he did enough. He did enough to show that he is worthy of a spot. But like it wasn't a no-brainer choice. I really feel like that was the case. And you have someone like Jason Hayward, who is a pull left-handed hitter. He's going to hit left-handed. He's going to play, I think, maybe a little bit better defense than Tirso, as much as we've heard that he's improved in defense. But still, Hayward doesn't really make you go like, wow, okay, here we go. Let's go. We're back.
Yeah, I feel a little better about Jason Hayward than I do about Gurriel and Maldonado. Jason Hayward, if you look back the last few years, he's been roughly a league average, maybe a little below league average hitter, but he's been okay. He gets on base a fair amount, and when he hits it hard. This year through spring, he was hitting the ball hard. If you look at his batted ball metrics, he was always posting high EVs in his numbers. So that's encouraging. But yeah, the defense, like you said, one thing about a contending team is that you can't have guys making mistakes on defense. And that's something that Mike Schultz teams have been big on, is being clean defensively. So Jason Hayward is going to play, he's going to take good routes. He's going to get good reads on the ball. He might not have the first step that he used to have. He might not have the range that he used to have. He's going to hit the cutoff man. He's going to make the right decisions throwing the ball. And then on top of that, he's got the veteran, right, whatever magic sauce you get from the veteran leadership. But the whole thing about the speech at the Cubs World Series Game 7 and all of that, I mean, he's got all of that in his back pocket. So somebody in the dugout that can be that calming, but how much of that do you really need on one roster? I mean, you got Xander Bogaerts. He's been there. You got Manny Machado. He's supposed to be your leader. You got Joe Musgrove, even though he's hurt, he's still, every bit a vocal leader. So I guess you can't have too many of those guys, but
Right.
I mean, at some point, I like a little youth injection in there.
Absolutely. And Preller once again is trying to find lightning in a bottle, catch lightning in a bottle. I tell you, I remember what and I think here's what I'll take. Here's my take. Camposano didn't have the greatest spring. He had an average spring, but if Matt Waldron would have not get injured, I believe they would have kept him on the roster because I watched Martin Maldonado try to catch Waldron, and it was Benny Hill. He had like
I don't know
three.
that Camposano was any better trying to. I mean, trying
like
to keep
three
that
pass
thing from
balls
going to
and
the
one at
dugout is
bat.
hard.
It was pretty bad. But trying to catch that lightning in the ball with these three guys. The other two guys that then what happens with Eggy? Here's a guy that I even though he may have not had the spring, he's hit a couple bombs, had a really good spring. That's the youth. Like he really I really wanted Eggy to make the team. He'll probably pass through waivers. I'm not sure if he'll get picked up anywhere. But it's sooner or later you got to give those guys a time to shine. Sure.
I don't know about that. I mean, he plays a really good third base. He can also play second base. He can fill in at shortstop. He's got plenty of power to the bat. And you look at his AAA numbers, and there's a lot to believe in there. He just hasn't really had a chance at the big league level.
Yeah.
I think the challenge with Eggy is that he strikes out a lot, and that doesn't fit the profile of what they're trying to do with the Padres roster. And last year it was all about contact, put the ball in play.
Right.
And so Jose Iglesias doesn't strike out a whole lot. Yuli Gurriel is more of a contact hitter than anything. And so I think Eggy's profile, he strikes out a little too much for what they were looking for.
Yeah.
I was trying to find a strikeout rate real quick here. I want to pull this. I'll find it. Keep talking. I want to figure out what his strikeout rate was this year in spring training.
And one of the surprise locks was not Lockridge, but for me, Mason McCoy. Tyler Wade getting the nod of probably going to get released, right? He's the DFA. He's out of options.
Right. Yeah. So Mason McCoy, okay, so he's not making the active roster. He's on the 40 man. They selected his contract to put him on the 40 man. I'm guessing that's because he was brought on a 1-year contract and he probably has an opt out.
Okay.
Maybe even as soon as April 1st. So for him, it was okay. We either put him on the 40 man or he walks. I'm guessing that was the decision with him. Where Iglesias, he was either going to be on the active roster or he was walking. I'm guessing, especially knowing that he's like, I think it was $2 million that his contract was for. Yeah. So, but I mean, Tyler Wade all spring, the social media was pushing the whole vibe side of what makes him so valuable to the team. I mean, Jackson Merrill hyping him up, and then all the guys, Tatis and everybody, it really makes him seem like he's an energizer in that dugout. And then you show all the celebration videos from last year. He's one of the first guys out there. He's one of the guys dumping Gatorade every time. So there's a place on a team for somebody that can play defensively all over the place, is a good pinch runner, can lay down a bunt if you need him to, maybe isn't the greatest hitter, but he can go play center field. He can play shortstop. He can do pretty much anything. And then is the glue guy. But maybe they think that's going to be Iglesias. And maybe they think Iglesias can hit a little better than Tyler Wade could. And maybe that was the deciding factor, even though it's righty over lefty. But that's kind of where Mason McCoy's role would be that last person on the bench, pinch runner, utility, defensive player.
How long do you think before we see a brown and gold OMG sign at Petco Park?
Oh, day one. You know that there's some people out there that are ready for that. He might even be in the starting lineup. That's been kind of tossed around there because if you look at the guys, they're heavy against. There's a couple. Chris Sale's a lefty, and so they're going to try to stack the lineup with righters. It would only make sense. So maybe Jason Hayward sits on the first day, and Gavin Sheets is in there. Although I doubt it. It's the home opener, so there's a little bit of PR reason to put your biggest names in that lineup.
Yeah, absolutely, and one of the things with Preller, and I think I can appreciate this, is signing these guys and putting them on the roster. Like it shows other veterans, it shows other players in the league that, that when he signs you, that you have a good chance to make the team. And these guys, they had a pretty good season. Gurriel, not so much in spring training, but like a couple years ago, who did they sign? They signed someone, and then they released him pretty quick. And it was a veteran guy. I don't think it was Nelly Cruz, not Nelly Cruz, but
there's Matt Carpenter. There was Rguy.
Right. Matt Carpenter, who's just sat and like people are going like, why is this guy still here?
Right.
But I think it goes a long way league wise to watch these guys come and play on the team. And here's where Rguy and Tirso come in, is if these guys fail, if Hayward is just really bad at the plate in mid-June, I could see him maybe getting DFA'd, and then Tirso's doing well, showing everything he's supposed to do in El Paso, and then getting the nod and then staying for the rest of the season, and then that
Same
platoon
thing for Oscar Gonzalez, and guys get hurt too. You never know.
Right.
I mean, knock on wood. I don't want Merrill or Tatis to miss a game.
No one.
But something could happen, and you need somebody to come up for a couple of weeks. But I wanted to say last year, so we can talk about the Matt Carpenters and the Nelly Cruzes and the Rougned Odors, but last year he knocked it out of the park with David Peralta and Donavan Solano. Yeah. And so this year, what they're trying to replace is Profar in left field, and then those two guys coming off the bench. So, I mean, when they signed Peralta, I thought he was washed. I didn't give him a chance, and I wanted that experiment to be done.
You got him fired up because you tweeted it like you tweeted.
Team, I don't think they make
get
the
this guy
playoffs
out of here,
and
then he hit the bomb, right? Then he hit the.
If that's what it takes, I'll take the credit for that.
Right. But you feel bad for guys like Oscar Gonzalez. Like, I've never heard of this guy before, and everything he's hits like 110, 115, and he's just searing the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, he hit what I've got it right here. He hit 400 with a 431 on base and a 564 slug. Now, one thing I'm sure you can go back is if you go back and look matchup by matchup, who was he getting those hits off of? And I'm curious for some of these other ones, because somebody pointed that out to me with Gavin Sheets, that the guys that he's doing damage for are really kind of more of the 4A pitchers, the guys that are on the edge fighting for a roster spot. But I mean, when you do, so Gavin Sheets earned that. How do you not give Gavin Sheets,
right,
after hitting everything to the moon? And no matter what situation it was, he was hitting the ball hard, righties and lefties. So I feel great for Gavin Sheets. That's the one that, no doubt, if he would have been left off the roster, people would have been up in arms. But Oscar Gonzalez really did earn a good hard look. So I hope he gets an opportunity soon.
Yeah, I don't know. We don't know if he's going to go to El Paso. Is he going to get released, or is he going to ask for his release? I haven't heard anything since we've been on, or before we came on.
There's an opt out in his contract, but I don't know what that means, if it's at a certain date, or how those, all these contracts, all these free agent contracts work differently a little bit.
Yeah, even Connor Joe. I guess Connor Joe will be in, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's the first one up before Tirso or anyone else.
I don't know what else Connor Joe needed to do to earn a spot. Okay, right. So he batted 316, a 469 on base, drawing tons of walks, and he slugged 447. So, I mean, he's not a power hitter. He's a line drive. You're going to spray singles and doubles, but plays a good left field. He can play first base. I guess maybe it was Gavin Sheets versus Connor Joe for that last spot. And ultimately, the existence of Yuri Gurriel kind of bumps everybody else down a notch. Yeah. So I mean, really, that's the one that I'm going to keep my closest eye on, is if Gurriel if we're a month into the season and he's up there batting 150, and those guys are starting to heat up in AAA, like, what are we doing here? Get him out of the way, because you got a couple of guys that can slide over to first base if you need. Yeah.
Well, that's it for the position players. Let's get onto the bullpen. Let's get on the bullpen and the starting pitching. Like, super stoked that our boy Alex Jacob made the squad. He came into spring training ready.
Has it been announced that he's going to be on the opening day roster?
Yes.
Oh, I missed that one. That's awesome.
It says here, reliever Alex Jacob has made the club, which leaves the Padres needing to fill one more spot in the 8-man bullpen, from Kevin AC from the UT.
Okay. That's
So
I
that can be,
I refuse to climb over that paywall. So I need to pick up on this a little quicker before we get on the mic.
yeah, I pay for, at the end of the baseball season, I kill my subscription to the UT because I don't know the reason why I do it.
Uh-huh.
That and
All
the
right. Well, I
athletic.
pick up Baseball America and the Athletic for you. So I guess that's where we
No,
keep
I
you.
got the athletic, and every once in a while, in like January, at the end of the month, when I got like $10 in my account before I get paid, bam, $50 goes out, and that's like $60 now for the athletic. And damn,
For the
I didn't
year.
get any money. I don't got any money.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's get into it. I mean, Alex Jacob making it, he looked really good this year, this spring training. I mean, just absolutely filthy, you know.
Yeah, he struck out 12 guys in 9 innings pitched. And it's like every time he would go in, the velocity, we're so used to looking at the radar gun.
Right.
But with him, it's like the radar gun doesn't matter if he's throwing 88, 89, because it's coming from this weird angle. It's got the weird spin to it, and nobody can pick it up.
Yeah.
So good for him for earning his spot. Friend of the podcast. Love that.
I
So
would
then
say
the
podcast
decision,
mojo, but not really.
yeah, we can claim some credit for that. So according to AC, the decision comes down to Logan Gillespie, who he calls a true long man, and
Right.
Rule 5 pick Juan Nunez. So Nunez has been a starter through his minor league career. Gillespie has been mostly a reliever the last couple of years, but he's been stretched out. I think yesterday, or was it today, that he started and he pitched like 4 or 5 innings.
Yeah.
So he's stretching out to be more of a starter kind of duration player. You've got Brian Hoeing, who probably was going to fill that role, but he's been in a walking boot all spring. So we don't know when he's going to be able to start contributing. So they do need somebody that can come in and give you 2, 3, 4 innings in the middle of a game. And it could be either of those guys. The knock on Nunez is that he hasn't pitched above high A ball.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You don't know what they've seen, in the back lots, what, talking to him, what the coaches see, talking to him in the dugout, what he's experiencing. Just maybe he's more ready than the stat lines show.
He pitched
And he's a Rule
Saturday.
5 pick, so he's got to
Yeah.
stick. He's got to stick on the big league roster for them to keep him, and that's what they did with Kolek last year, and it worked out pretty well.
Yeah. He pitched yesterday, I believe, and I thought he did really good. I got him mixed up with another Nunez that we have that's more in the system that just didn't really pitch very well. And then I watched Nunez pitch yesterday. He did really well. So
Yeah, the other Nunez is Eduardo Nunez, who I
yeah.
actually wrote a little further down in our guys who impressed. I like Eduardo Nunez. He's got some nasty stuff. And if they can just dial that command in a little bit, he's kind of a Javian Sandridge-ish
Okay.
last year. So if they can bring the command down from the stratosphere, he could be something.
Yeah. Did JV? I didn't see Sanders. Is he with us? I mean,
I don't know. He might have been on a 1-year deal. I'm not sure. I'll have to look that up.
we definitely have to look that up because we were talking about him all last year about how he was just mowing guys down.
We were. But okay, so there's one open spot in the bullpen right now, it appears. But then there's 2 open spots in the rotation. We knew that Joe Musgrove was going to be out probably all year because of Tommy John.
Yeah.
And then hearing that Yu Darvish has some elbow inflammation, that opens up another spot. So we knew there was a competition for that 5th spot, and now it's the 4th and 5th. And I want to hope that Darvish is back soon, but you don't know for sure. So we've got to rely on these guys to hopefully pick it up a few times.
Every time I hear elbow and inflammation or just elbow, I go,
yeah.
Here we go.
But nobody knows their body better than Yu Darvish. He's
Right.
so in tune with his conditioning and his regimen. So I hope that it's just out of caution and that he can work through this and he's back soon. But you never know. So,
Right.
Okay, so they need to do something. So one person that we haven't mentioned is Brett Sullivan. He was designated for assignment.
Sully.
So there you've got a catcher who can play a couple other positions. He hit great in AAA. In the limited chances he's had in the big leagues, he didn't do all that well. He didn't take advantage of his opportunities this spring. He didn't get the big hits. And behind the plate, there were a few passed balls that he probably could have kept in front of him. And I think that was a deciding factor. So he's going to go one way or another. He's designated for assignment. You got Eggy Rosario, who doesn't have options. You've got Tyler Wade, who doesn't have minor league options. I'm wondering if AJ might be burning down the phone lines trying to work out a quick trade before having to just release those guys or let them go on waivers.
You know, absolutely. You know, what happened to Estudio Ruiz? I think he's still playing for the A's. Guy who went through waivers but got picked up. You know, Eggy, he's one of those guys where I want him to. I want him to stay in the organization. If we lose him, you know, I don't think we're gonna go like, damn, he's tearing it up for the A's, or darn, like the Pirates picked him up and now he's just raking. I want him to be that guy for us because we've known him for so long. I just don't feel too bad if he does get released or he gets picked up, you know, on waivers, claimed on waivers, you know, and we send him over somewhere else for, you know, cash considerations.
My man, cash considerations.
My man, cash money. But I like the guys that we've known for so long, the longest tenured Padre, right? He's been here the longest.
Yeah, I think him and Tirso.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's him and or Tirso. They've been around the longest. But it wouldn't surprise me one bit to find out that Preller pulled off some wacky trade, and now one of our starting pitchers is coming from that trade. It wouldn't surprise me one bit. Javian Sandridge, he elected free agency last November, okay. So that was his right, and he is now in the Yankees organization. He's on their 60-day injured list.
Oh, okay. You're right though. It could be for like a AAA starter, or maybe some guy in the AA that has potential. There's not a lot of value there with you know, with Eggy and Asoli and Tyler Wade.
I know you've been high on Campusano, but the fact that he isn't getting an opportunity this spring
is more telling than what he performed in. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of writing on the wall, just not from this year, just this year, but last year as well, that he wound up, you know, losing his job, and then he was left off the postseason roster. I felt for a while that his future is probably elsewhere. It's just a matter of Preller being able to find the right fit for him. Yeah. You know, I wish him well. I want to see him succeed. It hasn't clicked here, and I don't know what it's going to take to make that happen. So maybe a change of scenery is what he's going to take.
Yeah, and it would be good since he's not going to get an opportunity here. He could be a major league backup catcher and maybe even work his way into a starting role. But you're right. Like I'm on the Campy train since another guy that we've known forever. Like we've seen flashes of what we want to see. But it just didn't happen. And that the chain swing again this year. Although we started it right after the end of the season, just looks violent. It looks like he's just trying to hit everything out of the ballpark. It's not a controlled swing. And that's the difference between someone that, you know, will hit the ball the other way than some guy who's just swinging out of his shoes. And too many of his at-bats this spring I saw were first pitch swinging. And I can appreciate with someone like Manny can do that, and it doesn't matter if he hits it out or not. But when you're vying for a job, you need to at least show that you can control the zone and swing at a pitch when you're in a hitting, you know, in a hitter's count. But it just seemed like he was too impatient at the plate. And he did have a couple pass balls where like, woof, God, you know, it's one of those things where he had to be perfect in order to make the roster, and he just wasn't perfect.
Right. So I was thinking about this a couple months ago, that this was when Darvish was still in the fold, but you've got Michael King and Dylan Cease, who have two of the filthiest repertoires, right, and they put it in the dirt all day long with their breaking stuff. And so it really makes sense to have a catcher back there that is going to be a brick wall that can keep it in front of them. And so if they can't trust their backstop to keep the ball from going to the backstop, that makes it harder for them to really, you know that they can let that breaking ball eat, right, and it's not going to wind up costing them because there's a runner on second, and next thing you know, he's on third. And that's not going to happen with. You have a little more confidence in Maldonado and Diaz that's not going to happen right now.
Yeah.
And so what got us on this tangent was the fourth and fifth rotation spots.
Yeah.
So it's a competition. It's been a competition all spring between Stephen Kolek, Randy Vasquez, and Kyle Hart. I really like the addition of Kyle Hart. The lineup needed a lefty. He throws a little harder than I thought he would. When you watch him, it's a pretty flat fastball, but it's got life, and he's got a good repertoire. He seems to understand what he's doing out there. So I like the idea of having a lefty in the mix one way or another.
Yeah, absolutely. And with Sean Reynolds, he's not ready to come back yet either. So we got two guys on the IL with Darvish. 2 out of 3 ain't bad with maybe a Vasquez, starting the year in AAA and giving Kyle Hart and Kolek the nod. Hart does one of those guys where he needs to hit his spots. Like he does not throw. I don't know if you caught his post game interview the other day where he's like, I don't throw 96. I need to hit my spots. And working on refining, my command is where I'm at right now. And he had a pretty good outing that game. And then was it Kolek that pitched? Was it Saturday or was it Friday that he pitched? Had a pretty good outing. That was a game that wasn't on TV. It was on the radio. When they're on the radio, I kind of don't pay attention.
A little harder to pay attention in those cases. But Stephen Kolek, he's been consistently pretty good this spring.
Yep.
And you're not looking for front end performance from these guys. You're looking for who's going to be your number 5. So it's nice to have a stopper back there, but at least you want somebody that can go out there and give you 5 solid innings and keep your team in the game.
Yeah. And I'm willing to give Kyle Hart the benefit of the doubt. They signed him. He had the Cy Young. I'm not sure how much that holds weight in the major leagues with having the Cy Young or equivalent in Korean League, but it's worth giving a shot, against major league pitching by major league hitters, during the season. And that's the big thing during the season when everyone's starting to get locked in, and it really matters.
All right. So as we come to the close of spring training, there always is the unfortunate part of having to release players. There's only so many big league roster spots. There are only going to be so many spots on the affiliate rosters once they start to break camp. And so in the last few days, the Padres have released right-handed pitchers Breck Eichelberger, Henry Martinez, Seth Mayberry, and Efren Contreras, catcher Colton Bender, outfielder Cole Roederer, and infielder Nico Goodrum. So Seth Mayberry has been in the Padres organization ever since he was drafted. He reached free agency, signed another free agent contract this last year, and he's been trying to come back from injury like the whole time.
Right. He just
so it's been a tough story with him. But then Efren Contreras, he was somebody that I thought was on the way up, and then he wound up having to leave. The Padres added him to the 40-man. Then they had to make room. He left, went to the Phillies organization, saw some success there, and then he came back this year. And I was excited to see his name back on the list.
Yeah.
But he wasn't able to make the cut. Might have been one of these things where he's got an opt-out coming up, so he knew he could go find a better opportunity elsewhere. And then Nico Goodrum, I was a little surprised that he was released. I thought that he was going to be somebody that would go down to AAA and be one of those next man up kind of people as a depth option for the team.
Did he come through the A's organization? Or sorry, the Angels organization? I don't really remember this guy from as much baseball as I watch. I see everyone almost.
Yeah, he's been with the Angels, a utility infielder.
Okay.
But
when Colton Bender getting released is almost about time there. I can't believe that he really never made it past high A. All right, yeah. So Colton Bender just never got past high A. I don't think he even sniffed double A. He seemed a lot younger than he was, but I think he's in his mid-20s. One of those guys that just never left Fort Wayne. And it happens every year. And, you saw it from Mad Friars earlier today. They're like, here's who's been released. And with rosters having to be decided for the affiliates, there's going to be another 6 or 7 guys that we see released. A lot of those names we won't know. And some of them we may know, some kind of similar to what we have here. Just guys that never get out of the complex. Guys that were on the bubble and some of the upper minors with us, and it happens every year for every organization.
It's got to be extra tough for catchers. It's like it seems like every year all these teams they fill up with a whole bunch of catchers because there's a lot of bullpens that need to be caught. So like you got all these guys trying to vie for these spots, but then you look around like, okay, Anthony Villar, you're going to be going to double A. Ethan Salas, you're going to be going to high A, maybe double A. Brandon Valenzuela, you're going to be going to triple A. Like, and then you're looking around like, okay, where's their playing time left? So where's Colton Bender going to find an opportunity to play? So I try to hope for the best for everybody. So maybe he's going to get a chance somewhere else, and that's where he's going to catch fire and find success.
Yeah, it happens every year. And I tell you, I was just looking at, I get the email from OneDrive. Here's where you were 5 years ago, and it was at spring training, and I have all these pictures of guys, and I'm reading the back of the jerseys. I'm like, know who that guy is? Never, he never made out of the complex. Who was their big first baseman? Who was a friend of the podcast? Catcher transitioned to first base. Was going to give us
on the spot.
God, I know. He's no longer in our organization.
Cantu?
Who? Yeah,
Cantu.
Yeah, Jorge Cantu.
Michael Cantu. Yeah, I think he's coaching. I think he's coaching somewhere now.
Jorge or Nick Cantu?
Michael Cantu. I think Jorge is still trying to play down in Mexico.
Oh, geez. He's like 90 years old. And I saw Henry. Like, I remember, like, Henry was taking grounders. Who did you see? You're out of spring training this last year. Who was taking grounders at short?
Yeah, I didn't see anybody too out of position that I remember. Oh, you know what? No. I saw Romeo Sanabria was taking grounders so he was with the infield group. So I thought it was all shortstops, but Castagnon was out there with them. But so the write-ups that I keep seeing on Sanabria are that the bat plays, he hits the ball hard, he sprays line drives, he needs to work on his defense. So part of that is footwork, but part of it's glove work. And I think part of it was just taking grounders. So Lucas Ray was blistering fungos at these guys. Like, he was swinging hard, trying to put the weird spin on these things. And so he was out there with DeVries and some of these other guys and just taking grounders to shortstop. But I think it was more just for the hands and reading the bounces and the hops and all of that, because there's no substitute for repetition.
Yeah.
So he was out there putting the work in. Yeah.
Interesting. So
it's something to look back. So we spent so much time around that 2018, 2019 Storm team. And I've been meaning to go back and look down those rosters and see like Jalen Washington and those guys that we were excited. We got to know their family a little bit. And then next thing you know, they're out of baseball. But let's hope that the lessons that they learn and the memories that they have from baseball carry with them, and they go on to find success outside of the game. But some of these guys they don't ever want to leave it.
Yeah. And the game will tell you when it's time, and it could be very soon or it could be later.
Yeah.
Who's pitched really well kind of in the back end of these against guys that are a little bit lower in performance is Kevin Kopps. He'll probably be in the bullpen again this year in El Paso. Not a lot was talked about him. I think kind of with Tirso, they want to see that last year maybe wasn't a fluke, and maybe Kevin can pitch a little bit better. That's kind of how I feel the same way with Kopps, with Tirso. Like, yeah, he made all these strides, last year. Let's see you do it again, and they always talk about you can do it once. If you do it consistently, then you're a major league player. But I didn't hear too much about Kevin Kopps this year.
Yeah, he pitched in a few games. He 3 1/3 scoreless, a 1.2 whip. Came in a couple of high leverage situations. It's always interesting to me when you've got the big leaguer that is having an off day, and they've got 2 outs and they can't seem to get out of the inning. They load the bases, and then you bring in somebody that most people have never heard of. They were bringing in David Morgan. Kevin Kopps got opportunities like that. That's where we saw the guys like Eduardo Nunez that I mentioned earlier, the guys that are not in major league camp, but were brought along that day to fill in. So it's always fun for me to see these guys come in, like Vicarte Domingo. Yeah. He's never pitched in an affiliated game. He was drafted last year. Dude is massive, and he threw some nasty stuff out there. So looked pretty good. Come in, face a big leaguer, see if you can get him out. That's got to be encouraging for those guys.
Absolutely. And it's fun to see, it's fun for them to get that exposure. But talk about big guys, Alex McCoy, you saw that?
Oh my gosh, he is huge. There are certain people that just stand out, and last year it was, oh my God, it was the son of the former major leaguer that got traded, outfielder. The way that he carried himself, Homer Bush Jr.
Yes,
like the dude just looked like a star everywhere he went. Like, he's got the big smile and all that. Alex McCoy stands out just because of his size. He is freaking built. 6'6", 260 is what he's listed at. And the man is strong. He is Fran Mill large.
Right,
He's
I
a
was saying,
large man.
Mill
I,
sized.
our spring training kind of went sideways for a couple of reasons. We weren't able to spend as much time around the backlots as I wish I could have. But I wish I could have just watched him take some batting practice to see how hard he hits the ball, because he is a large human. A couple other guys that stood out for their speed: Zach Evans and Cale Fountain, a couple of third basemen in the organization. Big guys. I got some inside info on Cale. So I saw him taking grounders, but he was just tossing the ball to the side, dropping it by the bucket. He had Tommy John surgery last year.
Okay.
So we were at the prospect breakout game, and sitting over in the next section are a couple of young looking dudes. And Angela sparks up a conversation. Sure enough, it was Cale Fountain. So I asked him, and he was going to start throwing the following week, which I think would have been this last week. Okay. So he should be out there throwing again. I don't know how long it's going to take for him to be throwing at full speed. I don't know what that means as far as being in game situations, but hopefully at some point this year, he's back out there playing third base, full go 100%. Last year he was drafted, didn't make it out of the complex. I don't think he was even doing baseball activities really. Right. Maybe he was hitting in the cages, but recovering from Tommy John, you're pretty limited. So this year he should be back out there.
Absolutely. And when they talk about the spring breakout, not much to talk about other than Braden Nett. He gave up the one home run, but Braden Nett looked really good this spring. And something that we saw him through last year. We talked about him almost every week or every start that he had, has really put himself on the map as a top prospect. And he is an undrafted free agent. Like, that is a Preller get if there is a Preller get.
Absolutely. And I ran into him a couple of times back there, and he's as nice as they get. And we were sitting there on the side, on the seats on the side, as they were all walking in for the game. And he was going to go sign for somebody. I said, "Hey, how we doing, Braden?" And he looked over me, he was like, recognized me, came over, his face lit up. So appreciate that. Same thing for Jagger Haynes. Yeah. Two of the nicest guys you could ever hope to come across. And then Jack Costello, he came over and said hi. And so, again, super nice guy. Same dude that we talked to on the podcast. Just happy-go-lucky, happy to be there, but making the best of his opportunities. He went 5 for 8, got a couple of ribbies, just being a minor league call-up. So good for him. A couple other guys that impressed: Forrest Wall and Trenton Brooks, first base outfield types that are going to be AAA depth, but both of them have seen a little bit of major league time. Trenton Brooks hit 314, 359, 629. Forrest Wall hit 281, 324, 563. Both those guys had a couple home runs. And then one guy that kind of on the fringe, Francisco Acuna. He went 2 for 5 with a home run and a stolen base. Third baseman. He's only played in the DSL, but I love when a guy like that comes up and gets an opportunity.
I saw him at the end of the game a couple of days ago, and I'm like, who the hell is that guy? Forrest Wall, I saw him make a couple of really great plays in the outfield. Like, that guy can go get it. Like, go get it, boy.
Yeah, they had him playing some center field.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's fun to go see those guys. But let's, there it is. The season's going to start here at the end of 2 days off, and then we're getting into the season. We have another week in minor league camp, and then the AAA and AA start. And I think another week after that is when the A ball and high A start. I think there's a difference between there. I'm pretty sure. As a minor league podcast, I should know that, but I'm not.
Yeah, but they're starting earlier than they used to, and that's exciting. So I think the Storm opening day, they're opening on the road in Rancho Cucamonga, and I want to say it's like on the 4th or the 5th that they start their season, and then the home opener is on the 7th, I believe. And the day I'm most excited about, the first Wednesday of the season, is the 8th, and that's the day that Omaha the Bat Dog might be making her debut.
Yes.
Did you talk to Lamar King Jr. last year?
We did.
I wasn't present, so I wasn't there to see. He's another big dude for a catcher. I was surprised. Those guys aren't usually that big.
He wasn't that big when I talked to him. He had the frame, but he didn't quite yet put the weight on. But I guess he must have worked really hard in the offseason. That's another, and there's where someone like Colton Bender gets releases. You need to give that guy plenty of opportunities to get behind the dish.
Right. Yeah, he was purely a DH last year because he was coming off, I think, a shoulder injury. But this year, I believe he's back behind the plate, like full go. So I'm excited for a guy for stories like that. Come back from injury. Let's see what you got. So, are you going to make it to any of the opening weekend games?
No.
Oh man, well, I'll
No.
be thinking of you as I'm sitting there. We've got tickets for Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, and I am stoked. I'm excited. We got a fresh crop of guys to cheer for. I
Yeah.
believe in this team. I think they've got, I mean, you've got Machado's healthy, Tatis is healthy. I think Merrill is going to be slump proof in his sophomore season. Bogarts he's ready to prove that he's the man. And then there's a pretty good supporting group around him. And I love the pitching too.
Yeah. Yeah. Before spring training, and even a little bit before that, we were kind of going, oh my God, what are we doing? And then Preller does it every year. Why do we doubt this guy? Is it Dodgers level of acquisitions? No, but it's enough guys that we can put around the core and go far. Giants got better. The Diamondbacks got better. I think the West is going to be one of the toughest divisions in baseball this year. So I wouldn't be surprised if 2, if not 3 of the wild card spots come out of the West.
Well, it begins on Thursday and I'm ready to go.
All right. Well, until then, we'll see you next week. My name is Donavan. You can find me on X at SD Donavan and Blue Sky at SD Donavan.
I'm Roy. I'm at Zippy_TMS. And until next week, let's go Padres.
Go Padres.